call on Honorable Chinda to move his motion. Honorable Chinda.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise this morning standing on Order 8, Rule 5 of the House Rules to seek your leave that I bring a matter of urgent national importance. And the gamut of the application is that we have read severally in the pages of newspaper and the social media the issues that has to do with a Nigerian who has invested so much to establish a refinery in this country, and he has been complaining that some of the international oil companies, IOCs, are ganging up against him to frustrate him from operating freely. He can no longer get crude locally and then has to be forced to go outside the shores of this country to get crude to refine locally. And I think that that is the nerve center of our country. We should take it as a matter of urgent national importance, look at it and see how we can verify some of the information that are flying out there. Secondly, on the same issue,
yes,
we're also aware that our country invested 20% into that refinery. And what we have heard is that it is now 7.5%. Whether it is true or not, I think that we should see this as an important national issue to certify the truth behind all this information for Nigerians to know. I therefore pray that you give the necessary support for me to take this matter as one of urgent national importance this morning. Thank you.
And I rise to second the first leg of this motion, that it is important and that we should take it as a matter of urgent public importance. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Chinda, please proceed.
Operations and survival of Dangote Refinery and the actual percentage holding of the federal government in Dangote Refinery. The House notes with interest the successful completion and coming into full operation of Dangote Oil Refinery and Petrochemicals. The House also notes that whereas Nigeria is a major oil producing and exporting country, she has for several years continued to import refined petroleum products from other countries to the detriment of the economic well-being of our country. The House notes further that Dangote Refinery, with a capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, is said to be Africa's largest refinery and the world's 7th largest by capacity. And its construction was meant to alleviate the petroleum products needs and accompanying pains faced by Nigerians. The House is aware that recently the management of Dangote Oil Refinery accused the IOCs operating in the country of conspiracy in an attempt to frustrate the smooth operations of the refinery. The House is also aware that the alleged conspiracy against Dangote Refinery relates to efforts by the IOCs to deliberately frustrate the refinery from buying local crude by manipulating and jacking up the premium price above the market price, thus forcing the refinery to reduce output. Whilst Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, was trying its best to allocate the crude to Dangote Refinery, the IOCs were deliberately frustrating Dangote Refinery's efforts to buy the local crude. The House is concerned that while IOCs are keen on exporting raw materials to their home countries and thus create wealth and employment for their countries, thereby adding to their GDP, Nigeria continues to be a dumping ground for the refined products, thus making us dependent on imported petroleum products. Also concerned that the IOC strategy or plan, which is capable of making Nigeria face higher rate of unemployment and poverty. The House is concerned that there is an urgent need for the federal government and relevant MDAs, including NUPRC, and key stakeholders to support Dangote Refinery to succeed. The House is worried that whilst federal government of Nigeria subscribed 20% shares in Dangote Refinery, the chairman, Aliko Dangote, claimed that Nigeria was unable to redeem its obligation and now owns 7.2% through NNPC Limited. The House is worried that there is an urgent need to look into these allegations and end or break all forms of dominance and monopoly in the petroleum sector by IOCs and confirm the quantum of federal government interest in the refinery. The House is worried that unless urgent steps are taken by the federal government, as well as investigate these matters and call on the IOCs to order Dangote Refinery and its operation will be prematurely pushed or forced out of business, and this will not be good for us as a people. The House is also concerned that NNPC Limited is said to be unable to subscribe for the 20% shares that the country ought to own in Dangote Refinery. The House is called to resolve to urge the federal government, NUPRC, NMDPRA, key stakeholders and well-meaning Nigerians to support Dangote Refinery to succeed. Also urge the Minister of Petroleum Resources and all relevant NDAs to immediately take urgent steps and intervene in the matter of crude oil supply to Dangote Refinery. And finally, set up an ad hoc committee to investigate these matters of the inability of NNPC Limited to subscribe for the 20% shares in Dangote Refinery and lack of supply of crude to Dangote Refinery, and report back to the House within 4 weeks for further legislative action. I so move, sir.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second this motion and to contribute. The motion is very important, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second this motion. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Vote of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. That is have it. This motion will be referred to a committee to be constituted in due course. Honorable Ibrahim Ayokule Isiaka. If Honorable Isiaka is around, please can you rise and move your motion?
I rise under Order 8 Rule 5 to seek the permission of the House under your leadership, especially Rule 5.2, Roman figure 1 and 2, Roman figures 1 and 2, A and B, to enable me to take this matter of urgent public importance for an appeal to the proponents of proposed nationwide protest to maintain peace, eschew violence, and open the windows for meaningful engagements with the government at all levels in order to address their issues. Mr. Speaker, I so move with your permission. Thank you, sir.
I hereby second the motion of urgent public importance as ably moved by Honorable Ibrahim Isiaka. I so second, sir.
I rise to second the second leg of the motion, ably moved by my honorable colleagues, Honorable Ayokule Isiaka. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those against should say nay. That is have it. Honorable Isiaka, please proceed.
That whereas the citizens of Nigeria have the constitutional right to peaceful assembly and protest to address their grievances. The Speaker, whereas maintaining peace and engaging in constructive dialogue with the government is crucial for the resolution of issues facing the nation. Be it resolved by this House, this Honorable House appeals to the proponents of the proposed nationwide protest in Nigeria to consider a different path, a path of patience, dialogue, and collaboration to prioritize the line of peace and open channels of meaningful engagements with the government. Mr. Speaker, the House is further aware that the challenges we face as a nation is not so unique to Nigeria. There are issues that countries across the globe grapple with on a daily basis. In a world that is constantly changing and evolving, no nation is immune to the complexities of governance and development. The road to change is not easy, and the journey towards a brighter future often fraught with obstacles. But we must not lose sight of the incremental steps that have been taken by this government. They are the reforms that have been implemented and the strides that have been made towards a more prosperous Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, the House herefrom urges you, our fellow Nigerians, to consider the broader perspective, to act with wisdom and foresight, and to support efforts towards a more stable, secure, and prosperous Nigeria. Let us reason together. Let us listen to one another. And let us work hand in hand towards a brighter tomorrow. Be it resolved by this House of Representatives that this motion be communicated to all relevant stakeholders and the general public to promote a peaceful and constructive approach to addressing our national issues. Mr. Speaker, I so hereby submitted and moved. Thank you very much, sir.
I rise to support this motion, all-important motion, timely motion, reasonable motion, nation-building motion. A motion that is laid on this floor with an appeal. It's only a man who is patriotic, who believes in nation building, who presents such motion. So I thank you, Honorable Isiaka, for being sensitive as a leader in Nigeria. I know many of us here are sensitive. Many of the representatives here are passionate about our country. That was why we left all the things we are doing to come to be part of a government that will grow our nation. We have a problem. It is not in doubt, Mr. Speaker. There is no member here who disagrees with the point that there is a problem in Nigeria. But also there is no representative here who doesn't believe that problems that we refer to did not just arise overnight. It is a compilation of years of difficulties that piled up. There's an agreement in our mind also that 1 year is not enough to resolve Hydra-headed problems. And as a solution hub, what we are here to do is to find the best plug to fit into the hole that will soothe the pain of Nigerians. Nigeria is bleeding, we agree, we are also Nigerians. So I want to join the prayers of this motion to speak to the people of Nigeria. Your crying is right. Your complaint of hardship is right. But is the solution found in carrying placard and lining the streets? Is the solution found in copying a country lesser than us? The references that are made today to Kenya and all the rest of them, they are smaller country to Nigeria. We are giant of Africa. We must provide solution that is better and sustainable and lasting. That solution is not found in our children being killed on the street while protesting. It's not found in our raising placard. It's found in supporting the policies of government and understanding that these policies need time to begin to materialize. Rome was not built in a day. In 360 days, the president of this country have not rested, have not gone on jamboree, has not gone to pursue shadows. He has been deliberately, intentionally laying foundation for a nation that needs that stability. And we have been supporting, and I thank the parliament for all the support. We have been giving support to all the policies of government with one single agenda in mind: the people, and the people. How to make our people better. And I want to say that we should support this motion, not only in this house, but in our various constituencies. Mr. Speaker, Yanzao, the lover of peace. It's about time we take the message to our various constituencies and begin to appeal to them to be a little patient. Mr. President did not mince word when he said there will be difficult times, but it will not last forever. It is delayed gratification for greater gain. Let us wait a little longer. Let us not go to the streets. Hope is coming. We, your parliamentarians, are making sacrifice. Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal. Even if it means cutting our salary to help with the provision of food for our people who are hungry, I want you that the House look into that. I know our salary is not much, but even if it means we did that in COVID. During COVID, we cut our salary. We slice our salary and we help the people. This is a time that is calling for sacrifice. And I'm sure these people here are willing to make sacrifices for our people. Let them consider our appeal. Mr. Speaker, a gentleman here called me this morning, a member of the parliament. He said, we are young parliamentarians. We want to go to appeal to Nigerians, even if it means kneeling down, asking them to be a little patient. And this parliamentarian is not from APC. This parliamentarian is from opposition party. He said, I'm young, like those who are agitating. I am on social media, like those who are agitating. But I know the effort we are making here to make the nation great. If it means kneeling down to them, we will kneel. The parliament is calling on Nigerians. Please, bear with the government a little longer so that these policies will begin to see the light of the day. Thank you as I appeal to this House to in one voice support and be willing, if the leadership calls, for us to make sacrifices with our salary. Just a little pain for us to be able to provide food for our people. Thank you very much.
I recognize Abuja.
I want to use this opportunity to appeal to all Nigerians, particularly the younger ones, the youths, the women, the vulnerable, that it takes a reasonable period of time to correct what has been damaged for a reasonable period of time. But remember, tough times do not last forever, but tough men do. And there is always a light at the end of every tunnel. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, this government is only 1 year old. We are appealing to our young men to give the government the benefit of the doubt, bearing in mind the people's order. And they stated it categorically that in the next 1 or 2 weeks, students will be allowed to have access to apply to that, and checks have been transmitted or presented to some schools in the country. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we should understand that the current president being spearheaded by Senator Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a democratically elected president, and he has been a Democrat substantial part of his life. You cannot go to market and buy integrity. You cannot go to market and buy position. Asiwaju has been working on government to be on the same page to bring an end to the current crisis we are facing. Lastly, I want to use this opportunity. To tell us that if you compare the cost of living, even among West African countries, you will appreciate the cost of living in Nigeria. The reason why I'm saying this, I'm telling you the truth, you can go and confirm, it's there in the public domain. Honorable members, I am neighboring a Cameroon Republic from my constituency, and it's the immediate country from my constituency. For you to have a haircut, in Cameroon Republic, it will cost you nothing less than 15,000 naira. But today in Nigeria, there is no saloon that you can pay more than 5,000 naira. We must appreciate this. Last 2 months, I took a breakfast and ended up paying 25 pounds. In Nigeria, that particular breakfast cost me less than 2,500 naira. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is a global issue. It's not peculiar to Nigeria alone. Our young men should understand this. We are appealing, we are pleading on our knees as young men to please consider peace for the country, so that at the end of the day, we will be out of our current situation. We thank you very much for listening.
Mr. Speaker, this is a critical issue and it's timely for this hallowed chamber to discuss this matter. I'm a young man, I'm a product of struggle. Normally in every struggle, peace and unity of our dear nation. Mr. Speaker, I'm a comrade. Anytime we are calling for protest, we must consider the atmosphere that we can lead protest and a peaceful protest. But the present atmosphere with the frustration, anybody or every organization that is organizing protest is definitely undermining the peace and unity of our dear country. It is constitutional to have or to organize protest, but always you must consider the national interest above individual or group interest. Mr. Speaker, these people that are calling for protest, I believe they don't know what will be the outcome when they go ahead to call for this protest. You can call for protest, but there is always non-state actors at the back door that are waiting to hijack what you think you organize on a peaceful manner. My candid appeal for the young people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is kindly cited on the example of what is currently going in the continent of Africa, that there is a conspiracy of the Western world. Do not undermine what your action can cause as far as the economic prosperity, peace, and the progress of your own country. Mr. Speaker, giving a reference, far back 2009, under the aegis of African Youth and Student Association, we organized a mega rally in Sudan, trying to showcase what we believe is unacceptable policies across the African country. But at the end of the day, the protest turned out to be unpeaceful, and the Sudanese that hosted the protest bear the consequences. And now, the same issues is being championing in Kenya. The same issues has been championing in many African countries. Nigerian, always, the case is different. When we started something, we don't know where it is going to be end. So I call for my fellow young people that, yes, I'm a member of opposition extraction, but at this very critical time, it is a matter of dialogue. It is a matter of talks. This talk, consult before you take a step of confrontation. My fellow young people, understand the situation and allow the policies to strive and see where the necessary way forward. Mr. Speaker, on this note, I want to once more call on my fellow young people to please exercise one more patience to see where the policies direction of this present administration is heading to before making any further confrontation. Please consult, make confirmation before taking any further confrontation step. Thank you very much.
With your permission, the chair and honorable colleagues, I would like to amend the prayers, if the House so permits, that the members look into our salaries of, our salary is 500,000 naira. That we look at a percentage of that salary.
For point of correction, is 600.
Oh, 600, sorry. But my own doesn't get up to 600 when I receive it, sir. Maybe some deductions. But based on what you have said, Your Excellency, I'm moving that we amend that prayer to include that members sacrifice maybe 50% of our salary for a period of 3 months or 6 months to help Nigerians and to show that we are in support. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at least 6 months, Mr. Speaker.
Months. Okay. Any seconder to this amendment? Honorable Maki.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as amended by Deputy Speaker. I so second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, point of order. Aye. Those against you say nay.
Nay!
The ayes have it. We'll take 2 more contributions and then we put the question.
First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, I want to align myself with the contribution of the previous speakers on this very, very important motion. And to as well commend the mover of this motion for his foresight. Verily, we are facing serious challenges and we are not alone. As highlighted earlier, this is global. The world is passing through a very difficult transition owing to issues, economic issues relating to war and displacement of people that are supposed to be actively engaged in economic activities. In Nigeria, particularly the Northwest, have been the food corridor of the nation, and the Northwest is being invaded into serious crisis of banditry and insecurity, and therefore farmers could not go to their farm to farm. This created a difficult situation where food is becoming increasingly very, very expensive and unaffordable. This call for all these issues relating to coming up to protest, of course, is a constitutional matter. You have right to protest, our young men. But the nation first. We should be patriotic. We should be nationalists. We should consider our beloved nation. So my appeal to our teeming young men out there of purpose and conscience, please and please consider your country first, Nigeria. Our leader, Asuwaju, as you see him with his demeanor and disposition, is all about coming out with programs and activities that will raise the standard of Nigerians, particularly the youth. Students have been taken care of under the issue of the student loans, and I'm sure it's going to be implemented in due course. Even on food issues, Mr. Speaker, just last week when we had the caucus meeting, we had a good news that the federal government is intervening to bring in food so that at least the price of this food, that is a very important factor in the whole discourse, will go down and people will be able to have what to eat. But I will suggest, Mr. Speaker, that you and the leadership of the National Assembly should engage the leadership of these groups, if they are known, because we cannot deal with those that will camouflage under a hitherto legal process and create mayhem in the country. If these leaders are known, engage them for discuss. Understand their plight. If it means you going around the geopolitical zones, Mr. Speaker, I think it's worth it that you move around to engage the youth and tell them the National Assembly, particularly the House of Reps, is with them in this issue, but they should consider that first they are Nigerians. And by the time they initiate something that will put the nationhood into jeopardy, they will be in for it. Everybody will be in for it. Because the issue of violence, we have seen how it started in the NSAS era. And you see how people attempted to hijack the whole process. It was only God intervention that quelled that very unfortunate situation. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I lend my voice to call on our teaming youths to be patient. Be patient, be patient, and be patient. The present administration under Asuwaju is committed to bringing Nigeria out of its doldrum. And inshallah, very soon, it's a matter of time, this will come to pass. But by the time now you go into trouble and we had issues, the country will go into serious challenge. You can see it, Sudan, where they are today. Somalia is still trying to battle. Other West African countries that are already into this doldrum are still struggling to get themselves out. So it's not the best time to protest now. Please and please be patient and stop. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, my honorable colleagues, for the attention and the opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, a hungry man is an angry man. We know this. Protests normally are ways of informing the government of what people feel, particularly negative things that are happening now. We all know that. I don't know of other states, but in my states, there are houses that for a good 4 or 5 days, they cook nothing, and they sleep on nothing, and they feed on nothing. People now go out to beg. Even those that are not supposed to beg now go out to beg. People use their children to go to beg, both females and males. Insecurity is increasing by day because if there is any hunger, definitely there will be violence. That's the truth of the matter. We cannot now sleep with our eyes closed. We are always sleeping with our eyes open because children or people will jump from one house to another, collecting funds, and taking anything they get for them to go and sell, for them to feed. Mr. Speaker, we know that Mr. President has a very good program for Nigerians. We all know that. I want to appeal to those that are instigating this protest, because I believe there are people behind this protest. It's not that people are just doing it by themselves. And I think DSS must work hard to find if they can at least be able to scout and get those people that are instigating or the leaders of these protests so that they can dialogue, we can dialogue with them. Let's talk to them. There is no any meaningful achievement in any world without peaceful coexistence. And Mr. Speaker, we know that the hunger is so very much that we just have to do something about it. We cannot tell them not to come and protest when we don't tell them what we intend to do. We have to have a program. We have to tell them that really Nigeria or country is going to do something about this. Today I saw Mr. President has sent in to states 2020 trucks of rice today. Let's hope that the rice will reach the people, because normally things that go to state don't reach the common man. That's the truth of the matter. Not all the people that are targeted get what is in the market. I mean, what is bought by governors or by the states.
Talba, please can you quickly summarize?
So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to tell you that there is a need for dialogue with the groups, and there is a need to find out the instigators and make them see reasons. And I also want to appeal to those that are coming out for the strike to please shield their swords and let there be peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning to make contribution to the EU.
Honorable Alims, can you stand up for recognition?
On the floor, sir.
Honorable Alims, please can you stand up for recognition? Thank you very much. You can sit down now.
Mr. Speaker, as sensitive as this motion, we have discussed extensively, appeal to the organizers of this protest, but we have not actually addressed the issue of the need for the government to do more to ameliorate the sovereignty of the people. An angry man is an angry man, and there is need for the prayers too to address the side of the government. Some days ago, we were talking about the need for the government to make adequate financial provisions for most of their populations. These are some of the areas that can ameliorate the sovereignty of the people. On the area of the students, a lot of students, even within their campuses, have demonstrated on the need for them to reduce or to stop the hike in the increase of school fees. And some of these things happens to fall on the deaf ear of the government because nobody is addressing their issue, not even the university communities. And generally speaking, there is need for government to do more. There is need for government to try more than what they're doing to ensure that people's sufferings are reduced and they see them as good and leading examples by maintaining a low-key life. Because to somebody who is angry and sees a lot of people going about, those in government, with convoys of exotic cars, they will not be happy. Then there is need for proper dialogue with the laborers. So I'm sure that since the last time they had discussion on the issue of minimum wage, nobody is attending to any other issues again about them. So they feel neglected. So there is need for this House to put in the prayers of these critical motions that the government should do more to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I first of all want to align myself with the previous speakers. And also, Mr. Speaker, I want to make a passionate appeal to Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We all believe that he has a very good plan for this country. His policies is a long-term plan for this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need a very short-term plan, considering the emergency situation we're in. We are not playing, Mr. Speaker. If we allow this protest to take place or escalate, Mr. Speaker, we don't know where it stops. Mr. Speaker, just now we cut our salaries. Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal to executive to do so, from Mr. President to Vice President to ministers to chief executive officers of MDS and parastatals. Let's all of us cut our salaries. Problem, Mr. Speaker. People are hungry outside, Mr. Speaker. Even if it warrants to slash the cost of petroleum, revert back the hike of electricity, Mr. Speaker. Provide food, Mr. Speaker, for the people. If we can be able to provide this short-term plans, Mr. Speaker, I believe these young Nigerians will be ready to surrender and decline this planned protest, Mr. Speaker. This is my point, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Deputy Speaker, I think this is the way forward for now. Thank you so much for bringing this up.
My dear Speaker, my dear colleagues, there is serious hunger in the land. And I think we should all come together to try to solve this problem. This has past time of politics. This has past time of blaming one person. I think the leadership of this country should please look for those people who will join hands with them to see how well we can solve the problem facing this country. There are people who have been in these positions before, and they were able to manage the problems of this country. It has past time of being proud. Let us remove pride. Let us remove selfishness and invite people who truly would help to manage the economy of this country. I know our dear president is trying his best, but he's just one single human being. I know there have been people in the past who have been able to manage or try to manage the economy as good as it is. So since we have come to this stage now, I think we should remove everything that has to do with politics and join hands to manage the economy of this country. The youths that are out there trying to protest, they are sensible people. If they see that we are giving our best to manage the economy, I think they would try to come to our side. The hardship is not in one person's house. Everybody is feeling the hardship. Those who used to drink 2 bottles of water now drink 1 bottle because they cannot afford to. Even the rich also cry. So I beg Mr. President to look for all those who can join hands. There are those like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, like even Desiani, who tried to manage the petroleum crisis when we had petroleum problem before. Anybody, no matter what you think about them, should be called upon to see how best we can contribute to build the nation's economy. Thank you so very much.
Mr. Speaker, there's no better time for us to tell ourselves the truth. And I'm very happy with the way and manner you started. I'm very impressed with your clamor for government policies and programs to be derived towards providing security, welfare of Nigerian people. Mr. Speaker, the Parliament is a symbol of democracy across the globe. Mr. Speaker, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, even though I'm not a member of APC, has started to reset Nigeria. The courage that the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, had under the approval of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to approach the Supreme Court on autonomy of the local government is a reference point. Mr. Speaker, we need to build on this. My leaders and colleagues over time, I've been in this parliament for quite some time, to live a worthy life as a member of human race. Mr. Speaker, it's our duty in this parliament to sharpen government policies and drive them to achieve the goals before us. Mr. Speaker, we passed the budget to ensure synergy between ourselves and the executive. We support the government of the day, but Mr. Speaker, various committees of this parliament, members of this parliament, we have a duty, we have a job to do to ensure that our budgets are faithfully executed.
The protest, like my brother, the Deputy Speaker said, is a accumulation of bad governance that have started since 1960. And more especially in the last 24 or 25 years of uninterrupted democratic government. Mr. Speaker, if the government had been responsive to the people, to their welfare, I'm sure many Nigerians will not be exercising their constitutional right as enshrined in Section 40 of our 1999 Constitution as amended. Mr. Speaker, our nation has grown where every man must be a king in their own household. We're busy saying, wait, 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 be patient, be patient. These people are no longer patient, Mr. Speaker. We have to be honest about it. Despite the good intentions of the government of the day, people are hungry. And that hunger has led to a lot of people to high crimes and criminalities. In the southeast is banditry, kidnapping, and assassinations. Well, Mr. Speaker, I support any plan because politics is gone, but now it's for us to come together as leadership to look at the welfare of the people. Everybody's talking about the welfare of the government. What about the people? Even in this chamber, honorable members are suffering. Our staffs are suffering. So, Mr. Speaker, our youth are exercising their fundamental human rights. But in the exercise of their fundamental human rights, there should be, as well, most of them to be circumspect. You can't destroy Nigeria. We must all come together to build a more formidable Nigeria and to ask the government of the day to look into issues that have been driving so many agitations in this country. We can't just put palliative on it, Mr. Speaker. We've passed that stage in our nation. How many trucks of rice can feed 250 million people? Cutting our salary, 360 people is only 108 million. What would that do? Does it solve the problem? So we need to, in this house, as a matter of...
Honorable, please kindly summarize.
Yes, I am.
We don't have time, please.
I am, Mr. Speaker, under your leadership, to come together, to find solutions for unity, to come together, find solutions for prosperity, and to be attentive to the agitations of our people, to be able to sort it out and to nip it in the bud, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for yielding the time.
Thank you, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I would not go over what our honorable colleagues have discussed already. I just want to point out that, Mr. Speaker, over a house that has 8 political parties, the first time in the history of the Fourth Republic, and we can see that we have a multi-partisan consensus in the House today, that we empathize with Nigerians and what Nigerians are going through. We understand that they have a right to dissent and to demand answers from government. But at the same time, we are appealing to Nigerians that they give us a chance to allow all of the reforms that are going on to be able to take root. But, Mr. Speaker, there is one thing that I just want to propose, an amendment to the motion, which is to have the National Orientation Agency, Mr. Speaker, to respond to the demands. There is actually a list of demands that were made, 12 demands. And many of these things, Mr. Speaker, are issues that need some enlightenment for people to be able to know about what government is doing already. Dissent is an important part of any democratic society. People respond and resort to street-level protest when they feel they are not being heard, when they feel they are not being sufficiently engaged. So, yes. So, Mr. Speaker, I would want to propose an amendment to that motion, an additional prayer, to have the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning and also the National Orientation Agency to collaborate, look at those 12 demands, and sit down and address Nigerians on what some of those things are doing. The last point I'd like to raise, Mr. Speaker, you remember, Mr. Speaker, that you raised when we had the power summit.
If you look at the subject matter,
yes, sir.
Does it have any correlation with the amendment?
They have a list of demands. Well, at least we've seen, sir, from... The reason we are even debating this at all is because what they've brought, they might be faceless, but they've brought something to the public. There's a viral list of demands. So I think that at least we have the benefit of history to guide us on this. When we had NSAS as well, there were also lists of demands. Mr. Speaker, these are things that I think even within Parliament, through your very consultative and inclusive way of leading the People's House, these are some of the issues you've addressed. When we had the Power Summit, Mr. Speaker, you also in your policy statement, you made that statement that we would have legislative action to ensure that power increase, review of tariffs that affect the lives of Nigerians goes through a consultative process as against just being announced and taking everybody unawares. So these are some of the issues that I think that Nigerians just need to hear from government. The reason people would resort to street-level protest is because they feel they are not being heard. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Correct, Mr. Speaker. I'm moving for an amendment.
So any seconder to the amendment?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
A point of order cannot be entertained unless if it relates to what he's just talking about.
It's in line. It's in line with what the House spokesman just said.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I may not, and my constituents may not be happy if I don't contribute in this chamber.
Oh.
1 minute, please.
My brother, please, we are trying to put a question for an amendment. You can't interrupt if it has nothing to do with that particular amendment. So you need to wait for the appropriate time for you to raise your point of order, but not at this time.
Okay, I agree with you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
I stand to second the additional prayer that is proposed by Honorable Rotimi. Mr. Speaker, I so second.
Those against you say nay. The ayes have it. We'll take 2 more contributions from Honorable Adodugwa, Honorable Kumo, and then we round up. Please, others, bear with us. The only 2 people that will speak, and then we
put the question. Honorable Adodogo.
I remember in one of his very popular speeches to the nation, he once said that he shared in the grief, he also shared in the pain and the hardship of Nigerian people, how he wished he could have done otherwise. But he promised Nigerians that definitely government will continue to do the right things to be able to assuage and to be able to aid people. I also would like to put on the record that I rise here to put my voice and my weight behind the mover of the motion and those who have contributed on this motion to advocate for peace. Welfare is being done by the government and those of us that are placed in authority to address their problems. Mr. Speaker, I will also want to put slightly to the attention of Nigerian people very recent policies, recent good policies of the government that are meant strictly to address some of these concerns of Nigerian people. Only recently, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, that the President declared our borders open for staple foods, grains, to come into Nigeria free for importation without custom duty, food security and supply of food to our doorsteps. Mr. Speaker, I am also aware that in some of the supplementary arrangements made by the present-day government, the intention was to address some of these issues that are really ravaging